So this is a very interesting presentation for me, just because I've never given it in this way. And also I can imagine that usually the people who are standing here run big companies, you know, it's like manage big teams, have a lot of people that they work with. And I work by myself. I'm by myself, and when you think about it, a couple of years ago, usually when people talked about freelancers, they talked about people who are unemployed, between jobs, between projects, don't really know what to do. It just had a very bad reputation. And then the internet came, and with the internet, a lot of things have changed, and now you can run businesses without employing people, and you can call yourself a freelancer and have, you know, a pretty good life. And what has been changing is that it's being said that by 2020, 40% of the, and that is US, which means in Europe it might take a bit longer, but just the work contracts of people are changing, and what is also changing is the way people find jobs. Also, a lot of people will tell you that, you know, every single time you listen to politics, everyone's like, we'll bring you jobs, we'll create jobs, and it's like, when you think about it, there are no jobs. Like, the whole economy is changing. We don't need people who do the job of a robot. Like, we have technology that can solve all of this. And so the people who do work and the way work is being done is very different. And the fascinating thing for me personally is you can nowadays completely change, you can sort of dream up whatever you want to do and make it happen, because the internet provides for it. And it's much easier than it's been any time before to just say, I want to be a writer, and look for the mentor who is a writer, send them an email and they'll reply. Like, people reply on the internet, and it's, you know, before it was always this thing of you have to go to a really good university, you have to go to Harvard to be in the circle of the people. And with the internet, you just have to be really good at something, be open about it, tell other people what you're excited about, and then get other people on board and make them interested in whatever you do. So I work as a freelance community strategist, and for the past 2 years I've been consulting Kickstarter on their expansion in Europe. I've also worked with design studios, with NGOs, with different companies, and the fun thing I mostly do is I explain to companies how to use the internet to their advantage, and I also explain to normal people how to use the internet to their advantage. So that's sort of how I'm making my money. And on the paper, you can say that I'm the owner of an advertising agency, I run a publishing house, I am a writer, I'm a photographer, I'm doing all these different things, and it just like all sounds very big, right? And when I think about all the different things I do, I consult businesses on positioning and how they use the internet, and it's like how they communicate. I self-publish books for creative freelancers. I teach classes online. I sell stock images. That's like all behind this, like I run an advertising agency and I do all of this. And as I already mentioned, I have 0 employees. Like, I work by myself, and I could go out there and say, oh yeah, you know, I'm a founder of something, and it's just like, it's not the way it is. But on the internet, you can, first thing, you can scale businesses, and you can also run businesses that just like sound big without having all this big company behind it. And what I should say is I work normal hours. Maybe I don't work normal hours in terms of I go to an office and I work 9 to 5 and then you know, go home and do whatever. I might sit the entire afternoon in a cafe and drink wine with people and just like have a really good time. And the question that you might ask yourself is, how is all of this possible? It's like, how can someone stand here and just say, oh, you know, you can run a business, but actually you can also have a good time and just change the perspective of how you're working, what you deliver. And what what the secret is, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, is in today's world, with digital, with the access to all those companies out there, all those people out there, with the possibility to connect to people outside of your own world, who are all, you know, you can just like grab your mouse and just like click something and look for people. You can scale businesses and you can make businesses run without you having to manage the people who do the business for you. So I found out that what has changed is you need to just find companies, you need to find partners that will do the work that you don't want to do and that will do the work that you could do but you would not be as good at it. You know, maybe those people can do it better. So you sort of need to know who you're looking for and what you want to realize. So I'm gonna sort of explain how my business is set up. So first thing is, my clients usually find me online, they read an article I wrote, they find my website, someone tells them, oh, you should talk to Monika. That happens a lot, that someone just like sends me, and I have on my website, it says, if I cannot help you, I'll probably be able to refer you to someone who can. And so I get a lot of requests that might not be interesting for me, but then the person at least knows that I can help them find someone else. And what I would definitely say about something is everyone, and you should think about this, and this like goes for people who want to build their own business, and this goes for people who want to find a job after university. So it's like build a very strong online presence. And what I mean by this is when you think about how you use the internet, or when you think about how you apply for jobs, or when you think about how you are trying to find clients as a self-employed person, is you have to be very specific about what you want, and you have to be very specific about what you're curious about and how you would like to contribute to someone else's business. And I always say there is this whole misconception of when people apply for jobs, and this is probably the most important thing I'm going to say in this entire talk, it's like a lot of the times when people apply for jobs, they just say, I need someone to pay me money for me to be able to pay my rent, right? It's like, usually the perspective is like, I really hope that they'll take me. And if you work for a company, you very quickly notice that in a lot, like, companies are busy. If it's about freelancers that they are trying to hire, or if it's about employees they are trying to hire, they don't have time to talk to everyone. And if they invite someone into the company to talk to them, it's mostly because they are really hoping that this person can solve a problem for them, or this person can bring their company forward. And so if you're curious about something and you're like, I really want to accomplish this, maybe on behalf of a company, then this company is going to be so much more interested in whatever you want to do, because you might not be one of the person who says, hey, I need a job to pay my rent. You might be someone who says, hey, I'm really curious about this specific something, and I would like to work on this, and I would like to work on this with your team. So that's like online presence, and I use it as me being very open about whatever I'm trying to work on in the future, and then mostly the right projects come to me for that. So the other thing is I produce beautiful books, and I'm saying beautiful because in 2014 I decided to go freelance, and it was sort of an overnight thing, as like I need to figure out how to do this. And freelancing, being self-employed, is not something you can do from one day to another normally. And I remember that I was like, okay, I kind of want to do all this research of how do you go freelance? It's like, how are you going to be a freelancer? And so I started interviewing people who I knew were really good at this. And I just like reached out to people, some I knew, some I didn't, and I was like, hey, I want to talk to you about your business. So I asked about all this advice, and afterwards I hired an illustrator, because I was like, okay, maybe my work is not as good, but there's probably gonna be, if someone buys the book, then if they don't appreciate the content in the book, it's very likely that they'll at least be very excited about how it looks, because it's beautiful, right? It's like illustrated and all that. And my illustrator sent me an email about 2 weeks before two days before her deadline, and she was like, I'm really sorry, I'm not gonna make this. It's not enough time. And then I was thinking, okay, I have an 80% finished book. What am I going to do if I want to publish it next week? And then I went on Kickstarter, I did a Kickstarter project, and then Kickstarter hired me for that. So this is another thing of, people are looking for someone who can solve their problems, and Kickstarter was looking for someone in Europe. I happened to have done a Kickstarter campaign myself, and so in a way I was also the perfect person. But by saying I produce beautiful books, it's not that I make them myself. I work with people who are really good at whatever they are doing. So I look for people who, I have an idea of what I want to accomplish, and then I just make it happen. And usually, and that's something I've done in uni as well. It's like, this is not something that a teacher would ever say, but I had people help me with a lot of projects, because my idea of university never was, I have to do amazing work. I was like, I have to deliver amazing work. And then, however I made that happen, well, that was like my thing, right? So the other thing is, Amazon sells, prints, and distributes my books. So there are a lot of companies outside, like there are a lot of companies out there that can do whatever you need them to do. You don't have to produce that yourself. Like, I can run a publishing house, doesn't mean that I have any printed stock in my apartment. It's like, yeah, when you go on Amazon and you click on my book and you wanna get my book, then Amazon is going to do the printing, they sell it to you and they send it to you as well. And so I can go out there and I can say, oh yeah, I run a publishing house. Doesn't mean that I actually do. It just means that my name is on this, I delivered the content, and then there's a company who does more or less all the work. And there are like a lot of companies like this. When you order a smartphone cover right now, it's like, yeah, it's been designed by someone and it's been probably sold by someone. But then the producer and the person actually shipping it to you, and it's called drop shipping, you can Google it or you probably know it already, it's like those companies do the job. So I look for companies that focus on logistics, and then I just do the content and the marketing myself. The other thing is, I said I teach online classes, so my classes are on Skillshare, and Skillshare has an existing community, and I just publish the content online. Skillshare distributes the content, they advertise the content to their community, and because it's their business model, they also grow their community. And I just get money from them once a month, completely hands off. It's like, I've done this campaign, I've done this video, it took me a week, and it's been making money since. So I just like I license to those companies because it makes sense to me, and digital content is also something that anyone can produce. The other thing is, I also mentioned that I sell stock images, and I upload my Instagram picture to another platform, and this other platform sells these images to advertising agencies, to all sorts of companies, and so I produce content that is of value to other people that they are looking for. Funnily enough, is when you then look for your own images and you find out that somewhere in Japan someone used your iPhone picture to advertise a camera. It's kind of interesting, right? It's like, that's just the thing of stock pictures. I would not trust them. You can have my brunch I had in Berlin in a cafe somewhere in France. It's like, that's the lie of the internet, but that's just the way it is. And when we talk about businesses, or when we talk about just how the economy is becoming or how it's changing, before those really big companies used to be car companies. It used to be companies that had a lot of like auto catalogs, right? It's like all these really big companies with big storage spaces, and that pretty much is changing. And so what I do with my business is fully dependent on me as a person, and it lives under my brand and under my name, but I don't necessarily, I just choose what I would like to do, and then I find the companies that have the target group, that cater to the target group, and you must have you must have noticed this this graphic. I'm just very sure that you've seen this before. It's like Alibaba, the most valuable retailer, has no inventory, right? It's that platform company. It's like Uber is the largest taxi company. They don't own any cars. Airbnb is the biggest hospitality accommodation provider. They don't have any hotel rooms. And Facebook is the biggest media owner, but they don't produce content. And so what these companies do is they connect people with people. What I do, I put my name on it. I use those platforms to serve, like to be able to be a little bit of this and a little bit of that, slash this and slash that. And it's with all these businesses where you can kind of play around and find whatever you're interested in and sort of use those platforms to help you. And then it's not about, a lot of these companies are like, you compete on how cheap you are, but basically what is changing is you can also build a brand for yourself and then use those companies to your advantage. And I'm at the end of this presentation, but I have written, well, I'm now about to publish a third book about how to be a freelancer and how to run a business in the digital age. And it's like, it's interviews with creatives, it's interviews with people who work with technology, and there's a lot of valuable stuff in it. So whatever, it's like whatever you would like to figure out for yourself, now is your time to ask questions. Thank you.
Sell your pictures to Instagram. Well, I don't have to.
No?
Yeah. If you can listen.
Yeah.
If you sell your pictures to Instagram, how much do you get per picture then?
So I don't sell my pictures to Instagram. Instagram is a platform. Yeah. So I upload my pictures to another platform. It's called IM. IM sells my pictures through multiple databases that are online. It's like you can buy my pictures on Getty Images, you can buy my, I don't know, it's like you can buy them somewhere. It's not a lot of money per picture. It's somewhere between €4 and I think 70 per picture. But it's like if someone buys an image, someone can buy it again and again. And you took this picture one time, and what I really like about this, it's like, it's not huge amounts a month, right? It's like, it's tiny. But it's, imagine, I had this terrible breakfast in South Africa. I really hated it. And now I get this email that says, oh, you just made 5 or 10 euros with this image of this terrible breakfast. I'm like, yeah, it paid for itself. Whatever.
And what would be the main source for you to earn your money from?
Yeah, so for me, it's always been consulting, because service, if you do something that is very unique to this one person, then it's of course more valuable to them than if you just like spread it to all the people out there. On the other hand, if you build those scalable income streams, and if you build up your business that you basically make money without having to work on it. It's like I was in Bali, I spent the entire afternoon in the pool, and then I sold a picture for 60 euros. Well, that's fair enough. But it's like you don't know that this money comes in for sure, but it's like the more you invest in it, it will over time build itself up. And it's like, with freelancers, of course there's this time where no one is interested in you being available, or the economy is bad or something, and so having all these different streams that sort of build an income over time, that you don't have to feel like, oh, I need to work all the time, that's a big difference.
So you never have like a secure amount during, like each month, right? Okay.
Yeah, from different places. And also you get busy with life, or maybe sometimes you just like don't want to be doing something, and you can still find something. Questions?
How do you think that the workforce is changing? Like, do you think it's moving away from big corporations more to the single people, or will the big people or the big corporations still be there and just...
So I definitely think that the big corporations will be there, but what is changing right now, and it's like, the internet, in the way it is right now, it's the Wild West. You can do anything, like literally. I remember there's this book, it's called Founders at Work, and it's about the Silicon Valley startup scene in '94. And I was reading it and I was like, oh my gosh, these people had all these chances and they could do anything. And I finished the book and I stopped myself and I was like, no, these people really had to fight for it. We have it on a silver tableau presented to us, and you can just like take something right now and try things out. So it feels very much like a playground. And the big companies, the big corporations, just because our consumerist habits are changing, it's like the way we communicate, like no one really knows what is happening right now, but we definitely know that the future is online, and the question is, do you know how to use those possibilities, or are you someone who helps build those possibilities? And I think that's also why there is such a big startup hype, because everyone's just looking what is gonna stick. And what the internet has definitely changed is it connects. So before you had friends because they lived next door, and now you have friends because you have the same interests. So it's much easier to connect to people who are as much in a niche as you are. So if you're really excited about something, it's easier to find someone else who is as excited about it. But it's very new, that wasn't around 20 years ago. That's like our big present from the previous generation given to us. And now the question is, what are you gonna do with that? And if you go and apply at a company right now, having all this knowledge that you don't even recognize as such, and you can present it well, then they are gonna, grab you with all their hands they can. Because they don't know.
So, does it make you happy to be a freelancer, or do you think that one day you will return to like a more corporate world?
So the one thing with freelancing is a lot of the times you ask yourself, am I on the right path? Because you are by yourself a lot. And that's got to do with if you aren't structured enough, like from my thinking about this, right? So it's like if you don't have a structure, if you don't build yourself a structure for yourself, if you don't have goals, if you are not working on yourself, if you are not expanding whatever you're trying to achieve. So it's like, sure, you kind of wonder about this. At the same time, it is like a game, and in every game you have levels and you have sort of goals that you're trying to achieve, and because you have to set those goals yourself. If you don't do that, you'll for sure return to a job where you're like, maybe this is easier, because it's much easier if someone else makes those decisions for you. At the same time, I can make my own day, and it's like I don't have to take the subway at rush hour. I don't have this like unfriendly phase. And I've also said it to someone, I was like, I'm literally surrounded by nice people, which is exceptional.
Have you ever faced the situation like at the end of the month where it says, hey, this month was maybe not so great, and my bill for the rent just came up, and
So when I wrote the first book, it was very much about how do you go freelance. I was like, I don't really know what the steps are, and so I wrote the first book, and then I had this 1 month where no one cared that I'm available, and I just started writing a second book to be able to figure out this whole thing with like scalable income streams. People call them passive income streams. I would never say that because you still work on it a lot. But I have learned that it's about a passive and an active, just like approach to life. And if I notice that things aren't working out, I have to try out something else, right? It's like you're constantly developing, and you have to be proactive. You cannot just sit down and say, I'm gonna just hang out, because then probably nothing's gonna happen. But if you see that nothing's happening, you have to be the one who goes after people, and you have to be the one who thinks about what value you wanna give to people. So it's very much about giving value, and if you can figure out how you can help other people, people are mostly going to listen.
And now you have all the would you now do it earlier? Like say, for example, me just starting right away after a bachelor degree, doing my freelance without any work experience, because you had your network, right?
I would not. So I would definitely get the work experience at an office, just because you understand how office environments work, and that's a whole. It's much easier for me to. So what I learned working for an agency, right? It's like I learned how to send out invoices. It's like I know that I have to do this. I was talking to someone, she was like, I wanted to start a business because I had this idea that I want to run a business, but I never thought about that I have to make sure that I have customers. So it's like, I know that I have, like, how much money I have to bring in each month. I know that it's, if I estimate time, I put in 30% of buffer. It's like I have all these estimates because of the agency environment, and I also know how much an agency would charge, and that's the major issue of a lot of freelancers. Freelancers undercharge because they don't know. They don't know.
So you have like how many years experience?
So that really worked to my advantage. I finished my master's when I was 26. And so let's say it's 5 years now. And because the majority of people finish studying when they are 22, 23, no one, it's like no one would say, oh, it's 5 years. I can just like look around and say, oh, I've worked forever. And I have, because I've always worked during university, but not within that industry. But maybe that's also an advantage, because I have worked at the train stations in Austria, all over Austria. I've done a lot of waitressing, I have taken care of kids, I've done all these weird, strange jobs, and just knowing how different businesses function is maybe easier for me to understand how to pitch to companies, because I understand how they work within.
Are there any skills that you learned at university that were helpful after? And also maybe some skills that you wish you had learned in uni?
Yeah, so I never really had time for uni. I always worked a lot at all sorts of different weird jobs. And the one thing that I've learned is presentation is a lot. It's like you have to know how to present whatever you're working on, because people just buy whatever they perceive from you. The other thing is I have very much learned to break systems in a way. It's like to understand how something works and what the other person expects from you. If you don't have time, if you are going to university and you know that you cannot fuck up because you don't have time for this, I would just try to understand what the teacher is looking for and just literally deliver that. So I would not say that I've like went all in and explored the world and tried different subjects. I was just like listening to what they want, delivered that, and then I was doing all my research and whatever I was after. So I wasn't, I was more a system hacker than someone who had good grades because I was the best in class. I just made the teacher believe that I might be. That's a difference, a huge one.
First question is, where do you sell your Instagram pictures? And the second question is, can I sell my picture every year?
If they are good.
Myself a freelancer, or?
Yeah, so I sell my pictures through IM. I had it on the slide. It's like IEM.com. The pictures that work the best are pictures that companies are looking for, right? So it's like...
It's not a selfie. It's not a selfie, yeah, I got that.
Yeah. They are looking for selfies. If you give them the rights to use your face for whatever, maybe and advertise a commercial in Japan for a camera taken with an iPhone, right? It's like, who knows?